Hello, I am Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Pad Academy collab that is coming back to North America and EU. So the Pad Academy collab is not necessarily a new collab, but it does have a couple of cards introduced as well as a new evolution for one of the existing cards. And this video / article will be going over all the noteworthy changes, where they fit in the current meta, and whether or not this collab is honestly worth rolling in, because we do actually have quite a few exciting things in store for us. And in terms of exciting things in store for us, there is the Monster Hunter collab coming up in the near future, when I do not know, as well as a lot of new 6-star Godfest exclusives, which are incredibly powerful. So, as a very easy overview, we have 3 8 stars, 3 7 stars, 3 6, 2 5s, and 5 4 stars. However, the rankings are not as nicely distributed, and only one real prize, quote-unquote, exists in this collab, which is the Dark Orochi. We have the Akala, Susanoo, Athena, Kali in A. Then we have Isis, Sasuke, Thurgia, Lucifer, Hathor in B. And then all the sticker girls plus Sakuya in C. Now, the order in this ranking tier does not actually matter. All that matters is the letter they are placed in. So all the A's, they're not in any particular order. It doesn't mean that Kali's the worst or Akala is the best. So basically, S comprises the top, A is next, B. You get the idea, like how letter grades work, essentially. So cards, I don't know why Pancake's in the camera, but cards at a glance. So a lot of the cards that are featured in the Pad Academy collab are reskins, or basically just recolorings with slight differences from their rare machine equivalents. So for the most part, a lot of their value will be tied to how strong their REM equivalent is, and whether or not these cards can be used in a new or niche or interesting way. So the Kali featured in this event did receive a new evolution, and she is actually a reskin of Dark Kali, except she has Wood Rose instead of TPAs, and she just doesn't fit as well, because even though she has the Dark Kali style active, which is one of the strongest in the game, the body that it comes with is not as potent or powerful. For example, Raw Dragon is one of the best fits for Dark Kali, and Dark Kali herself is superior to the Academy Kali because it covers the fire sub-attribute, as well as having TPA instead of Wood Rose, because Wood Rose does actually nothing for Raw Dragon teams. So the Dark Kali has more value there, so you can't really use this Wood Kali or Academy Kali as efficiently. And that is a little bit of a problem, because even though it is a reskin, if it can't be used in the same applications, it's going to have less value. And that's why Kali is S and Academy Kali is A. Now, she does have a high attack multiplier and a damage mitigation component when used as a leader. However, she has to match all 5 elements and has to have 7 connected wood orbs for maximum output. So that's a lot of juggling around, and it's not going to really keep pace with stronger leader skills currently available. It's too much effort, too orb hungry, and it's just going to be inconsistent overall. But one thing you could keep in mind potentially is that the healer typing can be used as a budget Kushinada Hime sub, but that remains to be seen if you really want to do that. Now, Orochi is S, and Orochi is the strongest card from this collab, because the regular Orochi is actually another S ranking character. And in all honesty, if we had to get a recolored Orochi, the best color it could come in is dark or purple, and that is exactly what the Pad Academy brings. It gives you a dark Orochi, and that is incredibly powerful, because right now dark teams tend to compromise the strongest teams in the game. So by gaining an on-color powerful delay option, this is invaluable. Furthermore, it has 1,000 weighted stats, it has 3 TPAs, it has 2 skillbind resists, and 2 time extends. So this is actually somewhat of a dream sub for Dark Athena teams if you discredit the fact that it is another delay. But the fact that Orochi's delay is so powerful may even be worth running, because Dark Athena really just needs orb changers, 1 enhance, and then utility afterwards. So this Orochi is bringing a lot of the utility that Dark Athena needs. It's got the 2 skillbind resist, which is essential, and the time extends for a team that's sorely lacking it. Furthermore, the 3 TPAs are going to synergize beautifully with the team, and the main drawback of this Orochi is the fact that it has only 1100 weighted attack. So it is going to be hitting quite softly unless you match that TPA. One last thing I want to point out and mention is that because it is a dark Orochi, when you transfer it over to dark attribute cards, you're going to gain a very healthy stat boost alongside. So that's another reason why this is the most powerful color Orochi we could have possibly gotten. Now we come to Sakuya, who is on the exact opposite end of the spectrum. She's one of the worst cards in the collab, and probably the single worst 8-star collab card I have ever seen, because she is a reskin of an existing card, Sakuya, who's not that powerful or meta right now, but what makes it even worse is she's a reskin of a non-Awoken form, and that is terrible because Awoken is okay, Reincarnate's a little better, non-Awoken is just crap. Like, this Sakuya gets up to 100 times damage at 10 combos, but if you can hit 10 combos, you should be playing something like Anubis, who's far more consistent by comparison. And the fact that this Sakuya is not bind immune, her gravity does not clear binds, it's just awkward all around. Maybe you can argue that it's a gravity inherit, but for an 8-star collab, a gravity inherit, not so great. No bind clear, no alternative secondary bonus. However, some people might argue that you could use her as a sub on future Ragnarok Dragon teams because of the water typing, but again, that's really pushing it because how often do you actually need to use that Sakuya? So in all honesty, this is just a very disappointing card, and it's the worst 8-star I've ever seen, and hopefully they do something about it in the future. Next is Lucifer, who is B, and his dashing looks doesn't necessarily revive his viability, but he does have some things going for him. Despite the fact that he does have 3 TPAs and 2000 base attack, it may be a little hard to use him as a sub on various light teams because the auto heal awakenings don't do very much, and the fact that his active skill nukes your team's health is not going to help out very much either. So it's hard to use this Lucifer on traditional teams. However, you can use him as a button sub in certain situations, because with 2000 base attack and 200 times attack for his active skill, he's going to be hitting for a reasonably high amount of damage, 200,000. But then you also can give plus eggs, latents, and stat transfer through skill inheritance. So this 200,000 at least jumps up to a little bit more respectable levels. If it's against something dark, it can one-shot it. So there is merit to Lucifer. You can obviously use him as an inherit, but even then it's risk niche at that point. But it is at least something interesting that you can keep in mind. Say we have a ranking dungeon that has something dark with, say, 600,000 health. I'm going to sneeze. 600,000 health. You could button your way through it. It's a cheesy way to get through something. So niche applications all around, but again, you could use them as a base for skill inheritance. Again, 2000 weighted attack with 3 TPAs does hit hard. Now, speaking of weighted stats and TPAs, we have Athena. And Athena is very powerful. She actually has 2 different evolutions. She has a form of glasses and a form without glasses. And in all honesty, the form you choose doesn't matter too much. It's more so of a fashion sense preference, because she has the exact same typing, exact same weighted stats, same awakening, same leash. She's the exact same every way except for light versus wood subtyping. So you're basically going glasses or no glasses. But aside from that, this Athena is actually very powerful because she has 3 TPAs, massive base attack. She's also bind immune. So that means you can use her as a very offensive bind clearing option. You can inherit a bind clearing active skill on top of her and use her as your bind clearing sub, and that will actually enable you to have a lot of passive damage at the same time because, again, Athena has 3 TPAs. So this actually gives her a lot of flexibility. You can use her somewhat kind of like you would use Reincarnate Parvati. Similar idea. You have a little less utility but a little more damage output. So again, it's kind of picking your preference. However, another thing I want to point out is that even though Athena does have low base health, she has very high base recovery. And that high weighted recovery is actually beneficial on real teams who do somewhat or are somewhat desperate for recovery because attackers tend to have low recovery for the most part. Furthermore, the healer typing enables you to use her on Kushinada Hime teams. So again, gives a little bit more options and flexibility. So it is a powerful card overall. Next, we come to Isis, and she has a split evolution as well, but her split evolution is a lot more meaningful than Athena's fashion choices because this Isis has dramatically different leader skills. Everything else is the same active, same weighted stats, same typings. But her stronger leader skill form has no recovery multiplier, but it will provide 4 times health and 64 times attack for healers and attackers. So you generally have naturally high health if you use healer cards, but naturally high recovery, but you'll have very high amounts of health. You'll push 100,000 in solo mode. And While it may seem a little lackluster 64 times on paper, it's actually a lot more meaningful than you think, because you can use cards like Haku. And anytime you can use cards with TPAs and 7 combo awakenings, you're going to be dealing massive amounts of damage, because those cards are going to hit significantly harder. So this Isis is going to do a lot more damage than meets the eye. Furthermore, all healer types are allowed to use Dragon Killers as a latent slot choice, and that tends to be the best killer available because, again, dragons tend to be the most powerful and scary encounters in Puzzle and Dragons. So she does have the chance and capacity to make a formidable team, but it's obviously not the most accessible one out there. It's really just, do you have a lot of Hakus? And if you did, you want to run something like Dark Athena anyways. Regardless of all of that, the Scholarship Academy Isis is okay as a sub. She has the non-Awoken Isis active skills, so more lackluster, but the 3 turn-based cooldown is really all you're looking at. You want to inherit something over top of it that's more meaningful and impactful, and it'll allow you to at least have some flexibility with some offensive capabilities. Now we transition into 6 stars, and Hathor is B, and the only reason she's B is because she has 2 7 combo awakenings. She's the exact same as her REM equivalent. She has the same active skill, same leader skill. It's a bit underwhelming, but it's rare to find a card with 2 7 combo awakenings, because that allows her to do 4 times damage to anything when you hit 7 or more combos. So that is kind of her saving grace. Susanoo is A, and Susanoo has generally been the lesser Indra for the most part, because his active skill shields 50, not 75% damage. However, Susanoo is dark typing in this case, so again, stat transfer to dark teams, which is very important, but he does provide 5 turns of damage mitigation, and with 5 turns of damage mitigation, you can basically dance around and survive most things. Obviously, you have to be able to at least survive that incoming blow, but for 5 turns, you have somewhat invulnerability. Like, it's going to be pretty challenging to kill most teams with 50% reduction for 5 turns, so it is a valuable inherit to have. But the only downside of this Susanoo is his weighted stats are just too low to really efficiently use him as a sub. So he's going to be regulated more to an inheritance option, but it's still a powerful inherit nevertheless. And now we come to Akala, and Akala is the exact same color reskin of her Rare Machine equivalent. She just uses water and wood crosses instead of fire and wood. So your sub choices are a little bit different, but most notably you can use Skulls, which are powerful. But the main thing about Akala is, as a leader, she is going to struggle in a lot of super endgame content, not because her damage output's too low, but because she's an orb-hungry leader. 2 crosses is 182 times, so that will kill a lot of things, but it may not kill certain things. So you are going to be quite reliant on stalling and having the right orbs available. Furthermore, she's vulnerable to binds, will have very low combo count, and she has a very poor base active skill. So there are a lot of things going against her, but despite all that, she's tanky, has no skyfalls, and she still can clear a lot of endgame content. Next, we come to 5-star bases, and Thurgia is B, and they were once one of the more powerful 5-star roles for collabs because Fire did not have any massive enhancing options available. However, cards like Krishna and El Ganubi have come out, so players now have options or alternatives to use on Fire teams for massive Orb Enhance Awakening bonuses. So Thurgia has definitely lost a lot of ground because it's no longer as unique or novel compared to before, but they are still a reasonable option. They still have the lowest base cooldown of those options, so you can stick them on your team and inherit an active skill of your choice over top. The only main downside is their weighted stats are a little lower, but certain farming teams may like this because their active skill does provide a Fire Orb Enhance. So if you are able to use their active skill at the beginning, charge it up towards the end, you can use at least as a damage enhancing ability later on. Sasuke is also B. They have gained some relevance since the last Pad Academy, mostly because we now have the future release of a Godfest exclusive whose name I cannot pronounce, but their board changer produces light, water, and hard orbs, so Sasuke at least has a much better board change synergy right now, so it's going to help them out in the at least moving forward because you at least have some synergy outside of Superman. Furthermore, they do have a Dragon Killer Awakening, and Dragon Killers, again, are the best killer in the game right now. However, it will be hard to justify using Sasuke as a sub because of low-weighted stats. If there's no dragons, they don't contribute that much, and until we get this board changer, it's going to be hard to have a wombo combo burst potential on your team. And now we come to the 4-star bases, and all of them are C's. None of them are special, none of them are great. There's Red Riding Hood, Snow White, Thumbelina, Cinderella, and Sleeping Beauty. And all of them do the exact same thing. They do have some bind clearing. They actually clear 2 turns of binds while providing 99 true damage to a single enemy. So that could be actually quite useful in higher end content if you could inherit them. But because you cannot inherit these fairy tale girls, they're going to be problematic. You have to actually use them as a sub. And in this day and age, 632 weighted stats for a 2-turn bind clear, 1 target true damage is really not going to cut it. Like, it's not good enough, in all honesty. You have better options out there. So they are C's. They could be D's. If they had an evolution, maybe it was a strong C. But right now they're a weak C, a strong D. It's just unfortunate overall. But I guess, again, it is at least a true damage thing. So again, they might have a little more value. So I guess C is the appropriate ranking for them. So in conclusion, the Pad Academy collab does have quite a few interesting cards in it. The new additions at least give you a little more things to shoot for in the 6-star category, because before it was empty. However, all their value really is stuck in Orochi. The other ones are nice, but really, are they worth pursuing? It's kind of up to you. With all that being said, outside of actual team uses or viability, they are very tastefully drawn. They have fantastic artwork. They're great collector materials. So again, if you decide to roll, I wish you the best of luck. Hopefully you found this review helpful. I wish you all a mantastic day, and happy puzzling.